Hello, vinyl community. Elliot here, Lazy Dogs Records, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I buy records online, some of the strategies I use. It may or may not be of any interest or help to you when it comes to your buying online. Specifically, I'm going to talk about buying used records online. Uh, I buy a lot from DISCOGS. I do not, and I buy from other online sources as well, but right now I'm talking about on DISCOGS. Now, first of all, I like to find records that aren't going to cost me an arm and a leg, but are records that I really want. Secondly, I want to find records that I can resell and recoup some of the expense of buying records. I've got two places I sell. I've got a table at a vintage shop here in my little town here in North Carolina, and I sell there. Sell them for $8 and $4, two different prices, and everything's going to be one of those two prices. And then stuff that's sat there and is not going to sell, I'll put down in boxes below my table and sell them for $1.50. So that's one way I recoup some of my money in record collecting, and the other way is to go to record shows. Now I've only been doing record shows about 2 years now, and I've done a half dozen or so, and I really enjoy going to record shows and selling. I enjoy the fellowship with other record collectors, people that have some of the same interests that I have. I enjoy finding hidden treasures among the sellers there, and enjoy making connections with other people. And so the records, when I go online and purchase a lot of records, I'll buy. In this case, I bought 68 records. Okay, now I says, well, that's a bunch of records, but everything I bought totaled less than $160. So that averaged out to about $2.32 a record, I believe. So it's not like I'm putting a huge amount of initial investment in there, and I'm getting records that I want to add to my collection, and I'm getting records that I feel like I can sell. So I'll show you the three batches. It more or less evenly divides between records I think I'll be able to sell at my table in the vintage shop here in town, records I should be able to sell at the record shows that I do, and records that I'm going to keep in my collection. So if I can sell these records that I've got $2.32 invested, I'm going to add an inner and outer sleeve. That's another 75 cents. Well, let's just say 68 cents to make it easy. So that bumps the cost of the record about $3. Uh, I'm paying rent at the vintage shop. I'm renting a table at the record shows. So there's other expenses. I'm cleaning all these records before they go out. So I've got expenses in that too. So let's say I've got about $3.50, $4 invested in these records. I can sell these records usually for somewhere between $6 and $10. Okay, and it's a fair deal for the purchaser, and it's a fair deal for me. Make a little bit of money off of it. I'm not going to make a killing, but I'm having fun while I'm doing it, and it's paying the expenses hopefully. Okay, so first, the records I'll sell at the vintage shop. I'll just show you real quick. Okay. This Van Morrison, a lot of Van Morrison records will sell for a lot of money. This seems to be easy to find at inexpensive prices. I'll put this out at the vintage shop, and I think somebody will purchase it for $8 fairly soon. Classic Delbert McClinton. And I was kind of conflicted of whether a record show or vintage shop, but I'll put these out at the vintage shop and see if they go. was very popular in this area. So, hopefully somebody will come in and say, oh man, I remember seeing him at the Long Branch or, at the pier or something like that. And they'll purchase that. Kind of along the same lines, the Nighthawks. I've got several that in the boxes that go to the record shows. So I'll try to sell this one at the vintage shop. And you get classic stuff. Now I've got several Everly Brothers records at the vintage shop, and they're not moving very fast. But I'll put this one out there, and maybe this will draw someone's interest. A really good album from their '84 reunion, and maybe they'll buy this, and that will cause them to come back in later and purchase one or two of the other Everly Brothers albums. Wasn't sure about this one either, but I went, okay, we'll try this at the record shop first. Now, you remember these guys? I bought this on a whim. Somebody they'll love, that Afternoon Delight song, and they'll purchase this at the record at the vintage shop. It might end up being $4. I'll start it down at $8 and see if any takers there, and if not, I'll drop it down to $4 and try to sell it. And I'm doing, a lot of these artists kind of like this. These probably wouldn't sell very well at the record show because you get a different clientele there than you do at a vintage shop record collector. Billy Ocean's. This has not got his Caribbean Queen on it. This is not that one, but somebody say, "Oh, I remember Caribbean Queen used to dance to that," and they'll pick that up. Little Criminals. Your standard classic rock bands, I can usually sell these eventually. It's not like somebody's going to scoop them up the first 3 days that they're sitting there at the vintage shop. But, if it sells over the next 6 months, 4 months, something like that, I'll be happy. I always sell a Who record. And this one's easy to find, and there are a lot of them. But people pay. See, now where my small town I'm in, I'm 45 minutes to an hour away from a record store, a used record store. So people come in and buy from me and avoid having to travel. And Jake Isles Band. And the closer you get to Raleigh in particular, and I'm, like I say, 45 minutes or more from Raleigh, depending on where in Raleigh you're going, the higher the vintage shop prices for records are. So I might sell at Jake Isles for $8, but if I go a few miles up the road to a vintage shop or something like that, and they'll have that record marked for $12 probably. Whether they get it or not, I don't know, but that's what they'll have it marked for. The Bay City Rollers, some lady will come in and say, "Oh, I loved them when I was in middle school or whatever," and maybe that'll sell. And then you pop artists, like Kim Carnes, he's a good quality artist. There's some good music there. Somebody will purchase that. Remember Juice Newton? Okay. These are not things that are going to be flying off the shelves, but these are, Pat Benatar. People love Pat Benatar, and they'll come in and purchase that. And they're Sheena Easton, remember her? And there'll be a Bruce Springsteen fan that'll come in and buy this one, hopefully. And Doobie Brothers, people may joke about yacht rock and all that stuff, but there's two of the same there. But the Doobie Brothers, and then that one, they're good quality rock band, and people loved them, and they had a long career. So these Doobie Brother records will move on out pretty good. Now the clientele at record shows is a little bit different. You get more. I don't want to say sophisticated, but they're just different, and it's different at different shows. Different buyers at the Carrboro show I found than there were at the Raleigh show, for instance. Kind of, there's one, the Bus Boys. Somebody will probably at a record show. This might be something they might be interested in. Paul Carrick, remember him? He was with Squeeze for a little while. He was in a lot of bands that he was in for an album or two and then left. And then he did solo stuff sometimes. But that's one. And Cowboy, remember them? They're Capricorn Records artists. And then there'll be people that are very familiar with T-Bone Burnett. is production work. And oh, here, there's an album by him instead of him producing somebody else. I've already got this album, so no need for me to get it again, and I'll sell that to somebody. Somebody came in, and I kind of convinced them that I thought they would really like Pure Prairie League's first album, and they might come back. That was at the Carborough show, and I'll say, "Hey, did you like that?" And if they say they did, and I said, "Well, this is another really good Pure Prairie League album, Tulane Highway." I got this album. I bought this album years ago, and it's in my collection. And picked this up recently. Uh, Gene Vincent, Rock On with Gene Vincent. Somebody looking for some good rockabilly, early rock and roll. There we go. That ought to appeal to a few people. There's 3 Marshall Crenshaw albums. They're not going to sell at the record, uh, at the vintage shop. They'll sell at a record shop. Same thing. I'll put this album out right here at the vintage shop, but I've already got one out there. But more likely, these 2 would sell at the record shop. Horselips, I had a vague memory of them. There's a couple of them. Irish band, a kind of Celtic rock from the 1970s mostly. I had a revival of the career, a couple of decades later. The Man Who Built America and Short Stories and Tall Tales. That's going to sell at a record show. That's not going to sell at a vintage shop. Arrogance was a huge band in this area where we live. Somebody, that likes that, or one of the members, the bass player was Don Dixon, and went on to do a lot of solo work and a lot of production for bands like REM and others. This album's really good. I got both of these already, so I'm not going to. So I'm going to sell these. Most of the girls like to dance, but only some of the boys like to. Is the name of that album. Long title, but I love the artwork on that too. Okay, there's some artists that people talk about and say how good they are, but nobody ever buys their albums. I think this is one of them. I got a bunch of her records for sale, different places. I've got some in my own personal collection, but people just don't buy that. They just don't. Like John Mayall. People talk about what a great man, what an important figure in rock and roll John Mayall was. You can price those records at $3 and nobody's going to buy them, it seems like. Rockabilly, anybody? Robert Gordon. And most of these records are in good shape. This one needs a little work. I can glue that in, and little things like that can take this from being a $2.32 record into a $8 record. And then I like to have a lot of roots type music in my the records I'm selling at the record shows. So a couple of Ricky Skaggs records that I already have in my collection, so I'll offer these up for sale. Really good records. Rock Hooters Jazz, same thing. Same thing with this Bill Monroe. I've got it already. It's a really good album from Bill Monroe. And Country Gentleman, got both of these already in my collection. So, those are $6 to $10 records. Once they've been cleaned and put in a new inner and outer, so on and so forth. Dole Lawson and Quicksilver, Rock My Soul. Same thing, got that one already. Got these 2 Josh White records in my collection, so pick these up for a very good price. I'll see if somebody at the record show wants to buy these. So there's the records I'll try to sell. Again, it's not like I'm talking about something that's going to there's not records that are going to get $20 or $40 or $15 even. These are records that I can make a few bucks off of each. What about the records that are going to stay with me? The whole purpose in buying these to sell is so I can cover the costs of the records that I'm gonna keep. Several Reno and Smiley records. It's a volume of this Collector's Edition, Volume 3, and there's Volume 1. And I may already have Volume 1. I have to check. I think that might be in my collection already. If it is, I'll move it over to the record show. There's Don Reno and Tennessee Cut-Ups after he and Smiley parted ways, and his new band was Tennessee Cut-Ups. Rich R. Tone Records, regional record label, the Bales Brothers, and this is Johnny and Homer Bales. Love this old time. It's on Old Homestead Records. Bobby Atkins and the Countrymen, a couple of records from them, violating several of the rules of bluegrass here. There's a snare drum. What in the world? Electric bass. You can get away with electric bass, but that's about all. And there's another one of them, Songs and Tunes of the 1950s, also on Old Homestead. Old Homestead was a nice reissue label, mostly reissue. Now, I showed you some Country Gentlemen I'd be selling. Country Gentlemen I don't have in my collection, and I try to have most everything they've done, is River Bottom on Sugar Hill from 1981. So I add this to my collection. Second generation, Head Cleaner right there. And Eddie Adcock is the leader of the second generation, the $1 Million Fiddle. Mac Wiseman, early lead vocalist in the Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys band, among a lot of other things he did. This is Early Dot Recordings, Volume 2. Country Store, one of those blind buys, but it's got some credits to some people that I would lead me to believe that I would like this. This will be the third album I've got by Roy Bookbinder, Ragtime Millionaire, featuring Fats Kaplan. Really good country blues performer. I like the artwork on this album as well. Another Country Gentleman, Good as Gold on Sugar Hill. Don't have this one already. Just a few more I'll show you. Joe Vale and the New England Bluegrass Boys on Rounder. Just what it sounds like. New England players playing some good old bluegrass. These guys were very highly thought of during the day. It's a promo copy. Robert Cray, Strong Persuader from 1986. I was thinking it was late 70s, but no, it's 86. Strong. I thought I had All Rise records, but Get Rhythm. I don't recognize this cover. Maybe there's a different cover and I have it on a different cover. Not sure to check on that, but I love Ry Cooder. The James family were full of musicians. The older brother of James Taylor, Alex Taylor, on Capricorn. And yes, this is the Pink Capricorn label. A couple of songs written by James, his younger brother, and some from the guys from Cowboy. I showed you a Cowboy record early. Talton and Boyer pin a couple of them and play on these, and lots of the Capricorn crowd playing on this. One of the things I'll say, the song Sweet Baby James that James Taylor wrote that was a big hit, it's talking about his nephew, James's nephew, Alex, his son. Interesting little tidbit there. And a little gospel. Got to have a little gospel. Mahalia Jackson, and this is the best of him, spirituals and songs of inspiration. So those are the records I'll keep. I'm going to sell some, keep some. Now, when I'm online looking for these inexpensive records, you don't want to buy a bunch of trashed records. So you need to always go, click on under $5, VG Plus, okay, for the vinyl. And that'll show you VG Plus for the vinyl. I'll buy VG Plus vinyl and VG covers, jackets. I don't mind a VG jacket. I can glue a split seam back together. That's a strategy or strategery for collecting vinyl without going broke. Everybody, remember to please be kind to your neighbors, because folks, we're all neighbors.